Hey everyone, this is Jason with another daily code challenge for you. And here's today's challenge. It says, write a function which, given a string, will return another string with the letters of the first string in alphabetical order. All right, so this one's a little bit tricky, but it just comes down to sorting a string, basically. And I'm going to say that let's try to avoid using built-in sort methods, because that's not really the point of these coding challenges. The point of these coding challenges isn't to learn how to learn the framework of some specific language. It's more about learning how to shuffle data around, that kind of stuff, the kind of things that you might be asked to do on a whiteboard in an interview. But having said that, I can tell you guys right now, I'm going to cheat a little bit on that rule because I'm going to use a couple of different JavaScript specific methods for arrays. I'm going to use array, splice, and I'm going to use array join. And I apologize, I'm breaking my own rule, but I just want to save a little bit of time because those are helpful methods. I think that would be okay in an interview, but I don't know. You just have to kind of play it by ear. Okay, so having said that, we know that this is going to be some kind of a sorting method, and we got to figure out, well, how are we going to sort one letter versus another letter? How does that work? You might be wondering. Okay, so I've got a little chart off screen. Let me bring it over. This is an Ascii chart, and let's take a look at what this has. What it's saying here is that for each of these different decimals in a computer, right? That's what this value is going to represent to the computer. For example, at 48, the value is 0, which is kind of weird, right? 65 is capital A. 80 is capital P. 97 is lowercase a. Notice how the capitalized letters come first, the lowercase letters come second. This is how a computer is going to interpret characters and letters and numbers and symbols, right? They represent, behind the scenes, some number in memory. That number being this digit in the first column here. So having seen this Ascii table, and if you're not sure what that's all about, just Google Ascii, and it's spelled Ascii. I just Googled Ascii table and I found this image. We see that the capitalized letters come first before lowercase, so that's something to keep in mind. So having seen that, I'm going to go ahead and close this. Now you kind of see in my example on line 7, I have an example string with some capitalized letters and lowercase letters, and we're noticing that the capitalized letters are coming first, the lowercase letters are coming second. I'm just making it a little bit more simpler for the sorting algorithm by kind of qualifying it with that rule. It would probably be more proper to have the lowercase and capitalized letters together, but for the sake of time, we're just gonna do the default, the way the Ascii tables are set up. So, having talked about all that stuff, let's talk about this real quick. How do we determine what one letter, if one letter is greater than less than? You saw the Ascii chart, but how do we actually do that in JavaScript? Let's take a detour for a second. I'm going to shut down that browser or the text editor. I'm going to go to the command line. I'm just going to type in node to bring up the node command line interpreter. And this is a handy thing because if you don't know about it, you can just type in JavaScript stuff. And for instance, I got x and y. I can say x plus y, x times y. I can do JavaScript-y kind of things here, right? So that's kind of nice. What I'd like to do is determine, what if I have the string A and the string B? Having just seen the Ascii chart, we know that A should be less than B. So let's test that out. If A is less than B, let's see if that works. True. Okay. Now let's look at this. Is lowercase a less than capital A? And that should be false, right? Because capital A came first. So now we're seeing that's false. So that's how we can take one letter, just one letter, and compare it to another one. I wouldn't do this because you might start getting into trouble here. Grouping your letters together like that. You might not be sure what you might get from that stuff. Okay, so having seen that, let's close that down. Let's get back to our text editor. So let's try to create a function for this. And note, I am going to use these JavaScript specific methods. You can use any language you want. I'm using JavaScript in this case. Pretty sure you can do this in any language though. So I've got on lines 15 and 16 a couple of console log statements to kind of test out my method that I need to write. So I'm going to create that function now, sort string. It's going to take a string, all right? Let me set up the return variable. I'm going to do this. I'm going to work with an array while I'm inside of this method, but I want, sorry, or function, whatever you want to call it, method or function. I probably should say function. So I want to work with an array inside of this function, but I don't want to return an array. The challenge says return a string, so we can get around that with the array join method. So let's set this up real quick. I'm going to say let result equals some empty array. It's going to be filled up with the letters in alphabetical order. And I'm going to return result.join. I'm going to do that. That's kind of a trick to take all the letters in the array, join them together into one string, and then return that thing. So inside here, I need to set up a loop. We're going to say let I equals 0. We're going to go from 0 to the length of string, so the end of the string, I++, so just a regular loop here. Inside of here, it's going to get a little bit more complex, so we need to look at each letter of the string one by one and start throwing those letters into this result array. And as we put stuff in there, what I want to do is the letter that I'm looking at currently in the outer loop, I want to compare it to what I have in the result array in the inner loop. And if it's a letter that comes after the letter that's in the array, whatever position I'm looking at, it should go after that thing, right? I know it's kind of hard to visualize. Hopefully writing the code will help explain a little better. So let's set up the, we need to kind of maintain the state of what index we're looking at for the inner array. So let's set up this result index variable. We'll set it to 0 initially. It needs to always be set to 0 once we're on another loop. And the inner loop isn't going to be a for loop. It's just going to be a while loop. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to say while the result index is less than result.length. All right, so that's key. We don't want to go past the length of whatever is in this array at the moment. And while string, whatever current character we're looking at in the string parameter, while that is greater than result index, basically we want to keep going in the loop, and we want to do this result index ++. So while the string that we're looking at from the parameter is greater, we want to keep going, and ultimately we want the larger character to be at the end of the string, or it might be in the middle. We don't really know, and that's where this other JavaScript method is going to come in handy, the splice method. I'm going to do result.splice. I'm going to say result index, which should end up being the place that we want to put the character in the result array. This parameter means we're not adding more than one item. We're just, whatever I specify in this last parameter is the only thing I'm putting into this array. I'm sorry. The second, I got that wrong, guys. The second parameter is for what you want to remove. So I'm totally fumbling this. So array splice, first parameter represents the index that you want to mess with for an array. The second parameter represents the number of things you want to remove. And you set it to 0 if you don't want to remove anything, because in this case I want to actually add to the array. And then the final parameter, which is optional, is the things that you want to actually add into the array. Now if I wanted to remove stuff from the array, I would give it a position in that first parameter. I'd say 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. And in the second parameter I'd say, from 1 to infinity for all the things that I want to remove out of the array. So this is kind of set up to add something in there. And maybe I'll just write a comment to make it more clear. Add current string index to result array at position result index. Sorry about that. I feel like I really jacked up the explanation on that. So I think that this will work. And let's give it a run and see what happens here. All right, cool. So we can see this first thing is in alphabetical order, ABCD, capitals first, ABCD, capital, lowercase second. The second test word was programming, and it appears that this thing is in alphabetical order as well. Now, you might be having trouble visualizing what's going on here, and I totally understand. Maybe what we'll do is this. After that splice, I think I will add a console log statement. We'll have the string showing first, and let's have the result array showing second, result.join. Let's just log what's going on so we can kind of see it visually during each iteration. So this is the string that we're trying to set up or alphabetize. Let me start with the programming one because this one's a little bit nicer looking. So programming is the word we're trying to alphabetize. The first letter is P that we're looking at, so there's nothing to really compare there. Second letter is R. R comes after P, right? The third letter is O, so we're on the third loop. We're finding out that O comes before both these letters here, so it's at the beginning. So that's where that splice is adding it to the first or 0 index. The next letter is G. Again, that one goes at the beginning. Next letter is R. It's going to go somewhere towards the end, and so on and so on. So hopefully by seeing this set up visually, it helps you out a little better. So that was a bit of a trickier code challenge today. I apologize if I kind of fumbled on that and confused you more. Hopefully by seeing the code and maybe running it yourself, it'll make more sense. If you have another way to solve this problem, feel free to comment and share that. That'd be awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I will catch you next time. Take care.